So guys, we've been alluding to CSGO 2 and the possibility of it. Where is CSGO 2 and will we see a CSGO 2 here in the future? It's a very difficult thing to kind of predict, and we can just go based on what we've heard from some of the developers over at Valve and just fully based on speculation. So I thought that I would talk a little bit about it, give you guys my opinions on it, the pros and cons to a CSGO 2, and also just see kind of some of the information that we have about the game so far. So in this article, guys, that was written here by HLTV, it's a blog, when will we see Counter-Strike 2 and what will it be? Now guys, this was written back in 2016, so a long time ago, but I think some of the things that were said in this may very well still hold up to this very day. So Counter-Strike Global Offensive was never meant to be a version 2 of the infamous Half-Life modification known as Counter-Strike. Instead, it was meant to be a Counter-Strike Source port to the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, much like the port of Counter-Strike to the Source engine, and much like Counter-Strike Source, Global Offensive became a very separate game from the game it was designed from, but it was still not a sequel to Counter-Strike 1.6. Ever since Counter-Strike was released, fans have been asking for a sequel, and people believe that now is the time of that sequel to arrive. In May of 2011, Gabe Newell was asked when Counter-Strike 2 was going to be released, and he replied with, "Once we have finished all the other games," but this was 5 years ago, and we are yet to see any sign of the fabled Counter-Strike 2. Many are starting to believe that we may see it very soon. Last year, a Valve employee confirmed that Counter-Strike would come to Source 2, Valve's new engine, but he did not say whether it would be a port from Global Offensive or whether it would be an entirely new game. Last year, there was a supposed leak image spreading around the internet which seems to show the logos for the next Valve games, Counter-Strike, Half-Life, and Left 4 Dead. These games were supposedly going to be announced at E3 and would showcase the features of the new engine, just like Counter-Strike Source did with the release of the Source engine. However, E3 passed without any sound from Valve, so it is likely that the play card or the placard was faked, but it is possible that they plan to release a new Counter-Strike game at 2015, but the game was delayed. However, this looking much less likely at 2016 E3 also passed without any announcement from Valve. You may be thinking, how do we know that it will be anytime soon? Well, it seems like Valve is gearing up for the launch of the next Valve game, Left 4 Dead 3. The above image shows an image that was posted on the Valve wiki that shows Left 4 Dead 3 and the frequently visited folders. Also, many Valve employees have been spotted playing on a private branch of Left 4 Dead 2, which people suspect is being used to easily distribute the new game without onlookers getting suspicious. As you can see with the Valve timeline, games are often released in a flurry with a new engine, and as it looks likely that Left 4 Dead 3 will be released in the near future, it also looks likely that more games will follow. It is also in Valve's interest to release a new major update to Counter-Strike. The interest in the game has started to waver, and a significant portion of its active player base have been lost to games such as Overwatch, with the fact that Riot are working on making their very own competitor Counter-Strike. It seems that Valve will need to keep their game updated in the form of graphics and new content in order to keep the players loyal and keep on playing their game. As mentioned above, in the version of the game, Valve would have to update the graphics to keep the game competing with newer games like Overwatch and Battlefield 1. Also, many players hope that the game will have better anti-cheat measures, meaning that they can play a matchmaking without the fear of meeting a cheater. Fans also hope that they will include team matchmaking so teams can compete against other teams, allowing them to improve their stats instead of playing against a team of 5 solo queues who are unpredictable and do not help the teams they are playing against, as they do not play as a team themselves. And so essentially, guys, the things that I want to bring up are graphics. So I know there's a lot of speculation around the Valve games, and I will say this. Riot Games coming out with Project A is probably going to be the best thing for CSGO. You want to know why? Because I think it's going to force Valve to make some significant changes with CSGO, whether that be making a CSGO 2 or just kind of updating the graphics over time or just giving us a ton of content with CSGO. Now, Left 4 Dead 3, that's also been speculated for quite some time. There's been a number of different games out there that are being speculated. Left 4 Dead 3, you're talking, I mean, they're even bringing up Portal, but Half-Life is certainly something that I don't know if it's been fully confirmed yet, but Half-Life VR, as well as like maybe another Half-Life game may be coming out. You've got Left 4 Dead 3, you might have a CSGO 2. Here are the pros and cons in my opinion. I believe that if you have CSGO 2 come out, you could have some significantly better graphics, which I think would really bring a lot of people in. You could basically keep it almost the exact same, but having it as, you know, better graphics, I've always thought that CSGO, you know, they just never really modified those graphics too much. And I think that having better graphics may very well help the game out significantly in the future. I also think that, you know, I think updating this because of games like Overwatch, Call of Duty, because of, you know, Project Ares, which is going to be coming out, who knows, in sometime in the foreseeable future. I think that what Valve needs to do is they need to be updating, they need to be consistently figuring out a way in which they can be creating this content that and kind of pushing it out to all of us, whether that be in a CSGO 2 or they just take CSGO and they just kind of update the graphics over time, update things over time. They very well may want to do that because we've heard from Riot Games like they were never going to make a League of Legends 2 because they just wanted this League of Legends to be the game for the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. They wanted to just be its own thing, not that there was going to be a League of Legends 2 at some point. They wanted it to be its own thing, and so maybe CSGO, Valve is seeking the same thing. They want to have it as their own, as its own game. They don't necessarily need to move it or make a sequel to it and just kind of update it over time because they have something that is working and maybe they just want to keep it that way. Who knows? It's hard to say, guys, but I gotta say, personally, with better graphics and, you know, just, you know, maybe making it fresh with a CSGO 2 or at least just updating the graphics and such in CSGO 1, I really think that that would help the game substantially with just getting more and more people to play it possibly. The other thing is this. I think that with the esports side, what hurts this esports side is sponsors see that, you know, terrorists in the game. You know, in the game itself, you play as, you know, terrorists. And that's one thing I think that's really has always kind of had this this pressure on CSGO, and I feel that if they were to update the game or they just made a completely new game, they could make there be no terrorists. It would just be, say, you know, Delta versus Alpha, or, you know, something like that, where it's nothing related to terrorists and planting bombs and all that stuff like that. Those are things that need to be changed, in my opinion, for this to be one of the biggest esports in the world. I know it is a massive esport, but it could really be the biggest in the world, and it may not even be close. And I think a CSGO 2 or some significant changes to CSGO could certainly do that.